Ink automatically tracks for us where in the story the person going through our story has been. That's part of what it handles on our behalf, so we can check back at which knots the person has visited. But sometimes we need a bit more than that to keep track of what's happening in the story. Maybe we have something that is a quantity that might change a lot during a story. So in a lot of stories, that might be something like money or hit points if it's an adventure story, where we don't just want to check, did you go to a shop where you spent some money? We need to know how much money the person has available now in the story, or how healthy they are if it's hit points. And we can handle that by adding our own variables. So we've already seen these three, which are used by VisualInk for choosing how to display your visual novel. But we can add as many more as we like. And they don't all have to be bits of text. So speaker, scene, and music are all pieces of text. And we know that because they're wrapped in these little speech marks. That's sort of what tells Ink where the beginning and end of the information that's going to be stored in this variable is. And then we can change that in other places. But we could, as we were just saying, add something like a money variable, and we can say that this is how much money Eddie has, and he's going to start off with 50 pounds or dollars, depending where you are in the world, or other currencies. And just like for other variables with this strange squiggly thing, which is called a tilde, we can change the value of a variable elsewhere in our script. So we can say maybe something like that a coffee costs some money. And we have to do something slightly strange here because we don't know how much money Eddie has when he gets to this part of the script. But we can refer back to what's in the variable already. And so we can say, however much money Eddie had before he bought the coffee, now he has that much money minus 10. And we can say that the tea costs 8 and a fruit juice costs 5. And now we don't need to know where in the story the money was changed. And we can do two things with that variable that we've now set up. So one of them is that we can actually show it to the person who's reading the story. So we can go speaker equals narrator, because this isn't something that Eddie's going to say out loud. And we can say, Eddie checked his wallet. At the moment, he has, and then we can put little curly brackets, and you can see that the text inside has gone green. That's because it's looking for the name of a variable. And it will actually replace that with the number. And so that's quite useful in its own right. And also, we can make conditional checks for conditional content based on how much money Eddie has. So this example is a little bit silly, but Eddie started with 50 money and he might have spent 10. So let's say if he's got less than 43 money, then he decides doesn't have enough money to buy anything. So we can add a condition block, and we can say that if money is less than 43, I'm going to change the speaker to Eddie. I'm okay for today. Thank you. And we can set the speaker to Eddie again here and go, yes, please. That's very useful in its own right, but there is one more place that we can use conditions, which can be really, really useful in games. And that is that we can actually have a short form of condition at the beginning of a choice, and it will change whether that choice is actually visible or not. So let's have a quick look at this one. If, for example, we had the cafe scene and we know that the coffee is going to cost 10, what we can do is we can say, we can put our curly brackets again, but curly brackets at the beginning of a choice are always a condition, like one of the lines in our condition block. And we can say if money is greater than 10, show this option. And that means that if Eddie ever has less than 10 money, he can't choose to buy a coffee. The story can't go in that direction. And this can be really useful because you might have things in your story like maybe the spaceship is about to crash, but there's been a fuel leak and you need to refuel it. And you can't pilot the spaceship to safety until you've put the fuel back in. And you can use a condition on the pilot the ship to safety choice in your story based on have you found the fuel and put it into the fuel tank yet? And so this is a really nice way of building up a chain of events in your story that then lead to a nice, exciting outcome at the end when the player sees, oh, I've solved these problems and now I can do this new thing and I can carry on with the story.